Did you grow up with bold and impulsive parents who love to travel? Well, I did, and luckily I lived to tell several stories of very, very narrow escapes. One such story was in 2009. There are two tiny families, 9 people, packed like sardines in a tiny SUV, parked at about 7,000 feet. We are here because my extremely brave parents want to be the first few people who could cross over a road that goes from a hill station in the north of India called Manali to a place which is at about 14,000 feet called Leh Ladakh. This is a dangerously beautiful route which has just been cleared of snow. And it goes through three of the world's highest motorable passes in Himalayas. And these passes are Barlachala, Tanglangla, and Khardungla. Somehow my parents have convinced two of their best friends, like another family, to join us. And their perks include everything having planned out for them and just going along with everything that happens in the journey. So this highway that I'm talking about remains open for about 4 months in a year, is barely 2 cars wide. And in this journey, as I had told you before, because it goes through at 17,000 feet through three of the Himalayan passes, there is no stretching your legs, getting out of the car, no opening windows because the oxygen levels are really extremely low. So it feels like we are in a tiny tin can floating in space. Of the 9 people in car, I am the most anxious of them all. My stomach is in knots, and I've already written a note to my best friend saying, hey, if something happens to me, okay, can you please tell my boyfriend I actually really loved him? It's 8 a.m. and we start the journey now. Up above Manali we go. The Himalayan peaks in the distance are glistening in the morning sun, and they are beautiful. I spot a few cars and buses coming at us from the opposite side. Maybe that means the road is actually safe to traverse. And maybe I have been scared for no reason at all, Because at the end of this tiny journey for a few next hours, we would be over the first of the tiny pass and resting tonight at an army base and in their fabulous guest house that's ready for us. Oh, how wrong I was. It's now 3 hours out, and we have straggled our way through that first of the tiny passes to the army base. The road they said was ready is barely their skeleton or remnant of the previous road, cleared of about 6 feet wall of snow. As we reach the army base, my dad rolls down his window and flags down a soldier and asks him, Bhaiya, how is it going? So we are here because we think we can stay here tonight. And the army soldier just looks at us perplexed because he did not expect any tourists to come through at this time of the year. The road just opened up 48 hours ago. He tells us that all they have right now are some open air tents and some iron bed frames. And if we were not supposed to freeze tonight, he asked us to go to a village which is just a few kilometers off and rest there for tonight. So we took his advice, and onwards and upwards we started going again with some Bollywood songs blasting in the background. The road has gotten even narrower. It's afternoon. We are an hour out from the army base, and suddenly there is no road at all. Our SUV, or the tiny tin capsule, is plonked in the middle of the river, and it's not getting out. The water levels are rising fast as the sun is getting brighter and brighter, and we all start panicking. Okay, I am about to burst out into tears. My dad is getting everyone shoved out of the car, and we take some of our valuables, keep them by the roadside, and then we all decide that we are going to push this SUV out of the water. So all of them, all hands on top of the car, and we go. 1, 2, 3, push. 1, 2, 3, push again. We tried this several times, but being in freezing water that's up to as high as our thighs, And at extremely low level, oxygen level means that we are tired in no time and in despair. We got ourselves away from the car, went next to our valuables, just sat there waiting and hoping some help comes through. The minutes are ticking really slowly. It's freezing cold out here, about 1 degree Celsius already. A few minutes out, we see a trucker coming up the road with a 10-wheel drive. He's extremely mad at us for blocking the road. And he's shouting, "Chalo, chalo, niklo yahan se," which means basically, get the heck out of this way. But then my dad spots a tiny, my dad spots that he's Punjabi. And Punjabis are known in India for heroic rescues and helping each other and being extremely generous. So my dad gets all us kids and goes next to the driver. So the truck driver is still sitting in the truck at somewhat of a higher level, and my dad is down here. And he starts begging him, "Bhaiya, can you please get your truck into the river, try to go to the other side, and please pull us out?" At first, the trucker was really skeptical and still enraged. But then one look at us kids and my dad's extremely desperate face later, he decides to be kind. So he took his 10-wheel drive, left the road, got into the river, and then somehow accelerated really rapidly to make it to the other side. And he took out this big thick rope from his truck, tied it to our car, and pulled us out of that fast, rapidly rising river. Poof, we're on the other side. But that also means now there is no going back. So it's all warp speed ahead. The day is about to set, and the road keeps getting worse and worse. That tiny village the soldier has told us about is nowhere in sight. Off in the distance, we see very grim reaperish 2 goat herders. That's because in India, when you're a goat herder in Himalayas, you always have a big black blanket and a big stick to herd your goats. Of course, we have no language in common. A lot of pointing and waving later, our driver understands that the village that the army soldiers had told us about was actually just those 3 tiny little huts before we crossed the river. That means we have no other option now but to continue onwards through a broken road and a whole night ride ahead of us to get to anywhere close to civilization. This ride would pass through an extremely dangerous road, snow-covered, broken, and passing through 2 of the tallest peaks I told you about at 17,000 feet. The gravity of the situation is now dawning on us. My sister starts throwing up violently, and my mom and dad take her to the back of the car and they're trying to handle her, and they sit with her. The other family who had joined us, they are panic-stricken, completely scared, not ready to speak at all, and a little bit mad at my parents. So through all of this chaos, I am now the calmest person in the car because every fear I had when we started this journey has come true. And so now I decide to sit in front and help the driver navigate through this way. Somehow the moon is guiding us. We are all exhausted with just one driver who has been driving for the last 14 hours, but we keep climbing slowly towards the first pass. After a long, tedious journey, we have reached the top, and what we see is nothing but a tiny stone that's parked there, and it says, "Congratulations, you have reached 17,000 feet. This is Tanglangla, the world's highest motorable pass." So we have gotten furthest and farthest you can get from the civilization at an extremely dangerous time of the day with nobody else in our sight. If our car runs out of the fuel at this point of time, we are dead. And we are already closing in on our water reserves. It's about 2 a.m. at world's highest pass. Our driver is extremely worried. And what he does is parks the car by the side for a few seconds, gets out of the car, cusses into the air for a few minutes, blah, blah, blah. I can't say that. And then he takes out a bottle of whiskey, which is under his seat, takes a few swigs, and gets back in again. We keep going nonetheless, slow, scared, and yet enabled by the moonlight. I'm in front, helping him by pointing out, look, that's the edge of the road. If you go a little bit left, we would collapse into a valley that's about 16 feet, 16,000 feet below, and it's bottomless pit of despair. And on our right, there is a tall wall of snow that we would crash into if we weren't careful. The nerves are getting to both of us. It's about 5 a.m. The driver is simultaneously very alert and drifting off. So I start talking to him. I'm a 19-year-old kid. Everybody else is quiet and silent in the car. And I start asking him big life questions. So, what made you a driver? How did you get into this business of driving the most dangerous road? He's extremely annoyed. And all he tells me is that this is the worst journey I have ever been on. But he's awake. So on we go. Everybody else in the car is extremely scared, but somehow still awake. And every time we make a dangerous pass or a dangerous road, I hear an exhale in unison right behind me where everyone goes, but there is a light in the distance that we are coming close to. And it's about 5:30 in the morning. Our water reserves are completely over. The tank shows that we are on the red of the car. But off in the distance, we spot a tiny hut made of the black stones in the Himalayas. It looks like a goat herder's house with a small cafe and a few benches parked right in front of it. We are still quite a bit far from the civilization, and my mom has started crying at this point. So my dad asks us to stop the car. He gets out of it and begs the goat herder, Bhaiya, can you please give us 3 beds? I would pay anything that you want just so that we could rest here for a while and get some supplies. And the goat herder just smiles with no language and he ushers us inside. So with this 22 hours of the drive, after this 22 hours of drive, when he smiles, we get out of the car completely dizzy. Some of us are crying, some of us are almost frozen. We can feel no sensation in our fingers. My mom is hugging me and my sister. And then, but against all odds, we have made it through the 2 of the world's highest pass, found shelter, and most of all, as an Indian, found chai to end this day. Thank you.